Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to
Why so many young people are leaving Italy?
Is brought to you by Ground News. Over the past decade, Italy has been facing an ever-worsening emigration crisis as an exodus of young people are leaving the country.
That's interesting. Here we're talking about emigration crisis. In other videos, we see immigration crisis. A lot too many people coming in. So, but if people are leaving, then people coming in kind of making up the difference. So what is the issue here?
In order to seek better opportunities abroad. More than 1 million Italians have left in the past 10 years, a third of them aged 25 to 34, and this trend is now accelerating, adding further pressure to the Eurozone's third largest economy, which is already struggling with a rapidly aging population. So in this video, we're going to explain Italy's emigration crisis.
Countries with higher wages, I guess.
And what could happen.
but what's going to be considered to have
USA,
good working
UK, Germany, France, Switzerland, Austria, I don't know.
Next.
Canada.
If you're a fan of On the World, by this South American leader. Let's get straight into it. Since the late 1990s, the number of Italians moving abroad has been steadily rising. According to Italy's National Statistics Agency, over 1 million Italians have left the country in the past decade alone. While emigration briefly slowed during the post-Brexit period, when some Italians were discouraged from moving to the UK, and during the COVID-19 pandemic due to travel restrictions, the trend has since rebounded, and the emigration rate began to tick up again. In fact, last year marked the highest level of emigration in 25 years, with around 191,000 Italians leaving the country, including about 35,000 long-term foreign residents who returned to their countries of origin. Europe remains the top destination for Italian emigrants. Germany, France, Switzerland, Spain, and the United Kingdom collectively receive about 55% of Italian immigrants, with the UK being the most popular destination. At the same time, though, there's been a rise in emigration to Latin American countries, particularly among foreign-born Italian citizens. Many of these individuals, newly naturalized Italian citizens,
Makes sense. We have seen throughout the reactions that there's a lot of Italian influence in Brazil and Argentina. So this makes perfect sense, actually.
return to their countries of birth in South America after gaining Italian citizenship, often staying in Italy just long enough to qualify. Perhaps the most concerning trend is the mass exodus of educated Italians aged 25 to 34, who have accounted for more than a third of total emigrants in the last decade. This includes more than 132,000 university graduates, most of whom have relocated to other European nations. This brain drain has only gained momentum with time, and recent years have also seen the proliferation of Italian language online portals, such as one from Sweden-based.
I mean, kind of makes sense. When you think of Italy, you think of more like the classical traditional jobs. You don't think of technology jobs, like where you need like a highly educated workers. When you think of Italy, when we do reactions, like cheese, agriculture, wines, that type of stuff. You don't really think, there is a big IT sector in Italy. So like I feel like if you get an IT degree, you kind of got to leave Italy if you want to get a good job. Like I'm sure there is opportunities in Italy. Of course, there is companies that open up offices and whatever, but it's probably more competitive overseas. So it does kind of make sense.
Recruitment agency work-wide, offering opportunities for Italians to work abroad in Europe. Worryingly for Italy, though, most of these skilled emigrants do not return, and as a result, the country has experienced a net loss of nearly 97,000 graduates over the past decade. The poorer southern regions of Italy have been hit the hardest, while the wealthier, industrialized north has managed to offset some of its population loss through internal migration from the south. So why are so many Italians leaving? Well, the main reason is economic. A recent Ipsos poll found that 35% of Italians under 30 are willing to move abroad, and those leaving cite 3 reasons: low salaries, poor job opportunities, and little recognition for their skills. So let's start by looking at Italy's low wages. To give you some context here, Italy is unique in the EU in that it does not have a statutory minimum wage. Instead, it follows a similar system used by most Nordic countries, where wages are set through collective bargaining agreements negotiated between unions and employer groups for each sector. While this system technically covers over 80% of workers, the no legal wage floor means there's no universal minimum protection, especially
That's
for those not
fucked
covered by
up.
contracts, which includes part-timers, interns, and informal workers, a large majority of whom are.
That's fucked up because the people that really need a job, they just work for pennies. 1 euro an hour, I just need something. That's fucked up.
So how come they don't have tip?
Well, they have tip, but tip is probably, for extraordinary service, not mandatory.
But now I see tip would be necessary.
Wow.
are made up of foreign.
Because
Imagine-
that's why I thought they didn't do tip, because okay, the companies pay them.
No, imagine like in fucking Italy, everybody goes for breakfast into, cafecitos we see, whatever, the cafeterias to get a little coffee and a brioche. You know how much in tip if you go out every morning just in tip? How much a month you would leave just in tip? It's ridiculous. You can't make tip on that.
No, the reason why I didn't think they need to have tip is because they were getting paid for the job.
I don't know.
and young
Apparently
workers.
they're not.
Due to weak enforcement, wage theft and grey work, which is off the books or underpaid labour, are widespread among young people. This, on top of low productivity rates and high tax wedges, has resulted in a complete stagnation of real wages in Italy for the past 30 years. In fact, according to data from the European Commission, Italy
they
is
need
the
to
only
fix that.
EU country where real wages have declined since 1990, leaving
What?
many Italians struggling to keep up with.
How the fuck do the wages decline with inflation? Oh, this is inflation adjusted. Okay, so the wages have gone up, but compared to inflation, they have gone up. Okay, got it.
The cost of living and housing costs. For comparison, other European nations have seen significant real wage growth over the same period. In 2022 alone, wages dropped 7.3% in real terms compared to the previous year, and even in 2023, inflation-adjusted wages were still 4.4% lower than in 1990, a worse performance than even crisis-hit Greece. Secondly, quality jobs are scarce. Italy has long had one of the highest youth unemployment rates in the EU. An issue that became particularly acute during the COVID-19 pandemic, when many young workers in service sectors lost their jobs. Young educated people who do find work often find themselves in precarious employment, stuck in underpaid temporary contracts or part-time roles, far more so, statistically speaking, than their European peers. And finally, Italian workplaces are widely seen as unmeritocratic, particularly by younger workers, who argue that career progression is slow and salary increases are not
No
strongly linked
wonder.
to education.
Stuff take forever to get done in Italy. They're not paying people to work fast enough.
Well, that and what we're seeing here, and we kind of seen it through reactions. Italy is a very traditional country. They don't really want to modernize. They like the way they are. They really value that handmade craftsmanship, stuff like that. So it kind of makes sense if you get a degree in like a new novelty technology. Like what you gonna do there? Like your only options is go do like a traditional job, because that's what the people within the country kind of want, and that's how the country is. So you gotta leave.
Or performance. 8 in 10 young Italians believe there are too many older people in senior positions, and according to INP,
That's just not just Italians. That's everybody across the board.
yes, workers under 35 earn just over half what their older colleagues make. This combination of poor pay and job instability means that young Italians with degrees suffer a significantly higher poverty risk than the EU average. It's sort of unsurprising then that so many choose to leave Italy altogether, which has had significant economic implications. The loss of human capital is driving the country's productivity down, and it's estimated that this brain drain cost the country €134 billion
Wow.
between 2011 and 2023. Meanwhile, the Bank of Italy warns that the projected decline in the working age population could lead to a drop in GDP of up to 11% in the coming years. This exodus of educated young Italians is exacerbating Italy's demographic crisis too.
In Europe, when you're little, is school free
Yeah.
for the kids.
Yeah.
So I would think they even lose more because they invest, in the kids when they're little.
Fair. Yeah.
According to World Bank data, Italy's fertility rate dropped below replacement rate as early as 1976 and has stayed below this ever since. In 2022, less than 400,000 babies were born, the lowest number since unification in 1861, and implying a birth rate of about 1.2, one of the lowest in the OECD. Unlike other countries, which sometimes have high fertility hotspots, low fertility rates are pretty much universal in Italy, which means that Italy's population is shrinking, and things are only likely to get worse in the coming years. Italy's population has been shrinking since 2014, and Italy's statistics agency, Istat, forecasts that it will drop to about 52 million by 2050, and then under 50 million by 2070. Italy also has the oldest population in the EU, with a median age of 48, well above the EU average of 44, and the highest old age dependency ratio in the EU at about 0.38. This is expected to rise to at least 0.6 in the next few decades, which means there will only be about 3 working people for every 2 pensioners. Of course, if young people continue to leave Italy, this will further increase the old age dependency ratio and strain Italy's public finances, especially if these people are well educated. Given how hard other countries have found it to stimulate their domestic fertility rate, the only obvious solution to Italy's demographic crisis is to increase immigration. But this isn't a popular idea in Italy, and Giorgia Meloni's right-wing government
Yeah, we've seen that they're trying to tackle immigration, not increase it. So Italy looks like they're in a rough spot. Yeah.
has instead taken steps to reduce immigration into the country. If you want to know more about this topic, there's plenty of other outlets.
So
Interesting.
what the other options they have? I mean,
Well, what I would do, obviously, is I'm not in the government, but try to one promote technology advances, technological sector, so the people don't leave, young people that get jobs, degrees in like IT and whatnot. Promote that, and two, figure out how to promote the birth rate, because just unsustainable. But that's okay. So the birth rate issue is not just Italy; it's like basically the whole modern world right now. So that's an issue. But yeah,
can I see the comment?
yeah, Italy's in a tough spot. Average income 1,500. Average cost of living 14 to 1,600.
Yeah.
I work for a European consultancy. Recently learned that my Italian colleagues in Milan earn only roughly a third of what I get in Germany for the same work, with rents that are as high as in large German cities. No wonder that educated Italians leave.
Oh wow.
Please continue to hammer on this issue. The government literally never speaks of this.
That's awful.
As an Italian student, yes, we can't wait to leave. There are no lucrative job opportunities and zero innovation and business growth due to absurdly convoluted bureaucracy. Among students, we often ask where you are leaving to instead of are you leaving. Wow. Edit. Also, the few who stay often do so because they need to take care of their aging families. Also, high taxes scare away investments and entrepreneurship. It's a problem. Yeah.
Oof. Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible.